Hey, dude. I don't know if your monitor's on. But yeah, I'm making noise. I see you. Oh, I was off. You missed it. I'm just clicking on things. I'm here. You hear me down the line? I see your mic's on. I had a good one. You would have loved this.
What's up?
One of the cats unplugged the modem.
Okay.
So I've been connected. I was connected like an hour ago, and then it took me like a few minutes to get reestablished. So tell my cats they're not allowed to do that, and maybe they'll listen to you.
All right.
How's your day going? You ready for the heat wave?
Is that you?
It's away from open. I'm just getting everything in place.
Okay.
And what do I need to know for today?
Just one guest at 6:20, one guest at 8:20.
That's awesome. How'd you talk your guy to do it at 6?
He's on the East Coast.
Oh, okay, that makes it easier. And I hope this headset's better. I can switch back to my other one. This is one with earmuff headphones and a gamer type microphone, really cheap.
Yeah,
Chat
you
said it
plan
sounded
on
better.
playing some Call of Duty later?
No, it's just they converted, I think, a gamer headset into a broadcaster's headset with adapters, multiple adapters. People on the phone said it didn't sound good, but when I talked to Chad, he said it sounded good. So I'm still troubleshooting if it's worthwhile.
All
Big
right.
earmuff
It sounds
headphones.
fine to me.
Okay, and you might be hearing an echo because you're coming out of another monitor.
Yeah, echoes are not allowed.
Okay, no more echo now. Everything. You should just hear some Pros and Cup of Joe in the background.
I've permanently banned echoes.
You should ban me from your neighborhood, and I'm never coming back.
Did you get kicked out of Woodstock?
Well, had access to live elsewhere, so I'm going to sell the Woodstock house. It'll be on the market in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
So if you want your friends to move nearby, please have them buy the
I think
house.
I'm good.
Okay. Hell, if you're looking to get another house to your portfolio, you might be in it with an awesome backyard.
Where's your house at?
47th. I assumed I saw you walk by once. 47th
Probably did.
Avenue. Well, it's one of those streets where it's half paved, half rocky, so it's better for on foot than driving. But Southeast 47th, south of Woodstock by about 7 blocks. Far enough where I can't legally call it Woodstock neighborhood when I sell the house, even though it kind of is. It's right there. We have a peacock population that roam the neighborhood.
Oh, I know the peacocks. I've seen them.
I saw one on my neighbor's roof. It was freaky to see a bird that big on a roof.
What's your cross street?
Rural, Rural. It's a very narrow.
Yeah, I walk right by there all the time.
Yeah. Bybee dead ends basically in my backyard because Bybee goes to like 48th and just gives you an L-shaped turn. I'm right at that other side of that L-shaped turn. So you see my backyard at Bybee and 48th.
Are you like right by the school, right by the elementary school?
A couple blocks, because that's on 45th.
Yep, I've definitely walked by there. That was that used to be the dog walking, route, but the dog's walks are now shorter because he's getting old.
I'm sorry to hear that. I wish they could live forever.
That's all right. He's fine. He's still healthy. He just can't walk very long anymore.
My vet called my dog an old man because his brain is all turning white. It's like graying hair. He's showing his age.
Well, Crash's fur is white, so you can't see that he's. I don't know if he's gray or not, but he just doesn't have the legs to walk for an hour anymore.
I think Rip City Drive has done more NBA talk over the last couple of weeks than they've done like in the last year. Just a made-up stat. It's like they forgot about the NFL for a couple of weeks.
It has been weird because there hasn't really been a lot of NFL stuff to talk about.
Yeah, they would always talk about Hard Knocks. I don't even think they've mentioned Hard Knocks. It's so uninteresting, the New York Giants. All right, I'm going to switch you back to Air Monitor unless you need anything. I got
No,
your
I'm good.
update ready to go.
Former Duck Ryan to follow Monday, July 15th for the 4th annual We Play Golf Open at Langdon Farms Golf Club. The tournament will have a shotgun start at 1:45. After the tournament, enjoy dinner, a sweet auction, and great prizes. Additional purchases available like birdies, eagles, and prize tickets. 100% of the proceeds go to the We Play Foundation. Sign up your foursome or grab a single spot at WePlayFoundation.org/events. Whole sponsorships available too. The 4th annual We Play Open Monday, July 15th at Langdon Farms Golf Club. We'll see you on the course.
Now, a look at traffic on Rip City Radio 620.
Customer Northeast Traffic Center, change the way you pizza. Still a very easy Wednesday morning commute. No problems in Vancouver for I-5 or 205 South. Earlier disabled vehicle, East I-84 near 58 is now out of the way. Westbound, you're still up to speed on I-84. Lynn Masterson, KEX Traffic.
Here comes the Clark County Fair this August 2nd to the 11th. Find fun games, thrilling rides, and plenty of delicious food. Plus 3 nights of amazing music at summer's best party. Don't miss this year's Clark County Fair. Visit clarkcofair.com and plan your trip today.
We wondered, where do people do their banking? So we asked.
I bank at Hapo.
Hapo's my bank. I've been a member of Hapo since I was 10 years old, 60 years.
I bank at Hapo Community Credit Union.
I'm with Hapo.
You're not just a number there. You know, you're treated really well.
I feel like they're part of my community.
It's easy, it's convenient, and I don't know, I just love the people there.
I guess the question we should be asking is, where do you credit union? Join Hapo Community Credit Union today.
See the world's top golfers and support female athletes at the Portland Classic, happening at Columbia Edgewater Country Club, August 1st through 4th. Enjoy the family fun zone, food trucks, beer gardens, and world-class golf. Tickets are on sale now with daily admission starting at just $15, and kids under 17 get in free. Get tickets today at portlandclassic.com. Brought to you in part by the Standard and Les Schwab Tires.
In sitcoms, when someone has a problem, they just blurt it out and move on.
Well, I lost my job and my parakeet is missing. How was your day?
But the real world is different. Managing life's challenges can be overwhelming. So, what do? We get support. The Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council have mental health resources available for you at loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. See how much further you can go when you take care of your mental health.
iHeartRadio goes one-on-one.
And here's what you need to know.
From the Goldberg Jones Sports Desk, your 620 Rip City Radio headlines. Goldberg Jones. Call 1-800-DIVORCE.
It is 6 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. Justin Myers with you. Just breaking news in the NBA. LeBron James has agreed to a 2-year, $104 million maximum contract to return to the Los Angeles Lakers. That's according to Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN. The deal includes a player option for the 2025-2026 season and a no-trade clause. Baseball news, Shohei Ohtani will not be participating in the Home Run Derby on July the 15th, despite the Japanese superstar ranking second in the majors with 27 homers for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Claims rehab on his elbow, keeping him out of the Home Run Derby. Coming up in 20 minutes, in hour number 1, Keith Smith, who covers the NBA, is going to join us to talk about the fast and furious free agent and off-season moves in the NBA. And friend of the program, Tyson Alger, in hour number 3. It is Wednesday. Let's get weird. It's Rip City Mornings on 620 Rip City Radio.
The home of the OSAA is 620 Rip City Radio. It's RCM with Justin Myers, right here on your home of the Portland Trailblazers, 620 Rip City Radio.
And a very happy Wednesday. It is RCM. I am your host, Justin Myers. Super producer Brendan is off. He is off on his extended holiday break. Joining us from a location to not be disclosed. Michael Shacker will be joining the program today. Just a fair warning. Fair warning to everybody. Look, this show's going to get weird. It just is. Shacker's in his fortress of solitude. No one is in the office today. It is like the lights barely turned on. And from a sports perspective, it is a weird day in the world of sports. So LeBron James signs his extension with the Lakers. We may dive into that. Like how much longer is LeBron James going to continue to pull this off? But the biggest news is LeBron James is extending. He's making $52 million next year. And then the other big news, Shohei Ohtani will not be participating in the Home Run Derby. We may dive into that coming up in hour number 2. Has there been a bigger drop-off in accomplishments than the home run? Right? When you were growing up, there were 3 of the coolest things you could do if you were ever able to do them, and some people weren't able to do all of them. But when you were growing up and you wanted to play sports, the coolest thing you could do, hit a home run, dunk a basketball, and score a touchdown. Now, you can't have a touchdown contest in like the Pro Bowl weekend, but growing up, the two biggest events that were not actual games, that were not actual, one team versus the other, let's tip it off, let's throw first pitch, all-star game, exhibition game, whatever. The two of the biggest events growing up were the home run derby and the slam dunk contest. Now, we saw what has happened to the slam dunk contest. It's barely a contest. The top stars don't want to participate in it, and this is what may be potentially happening to the home run derby. Be aware, baseball fans. Be aware, people who love the home run derby, because we have seen this before. The first step is fans start getting bored with the format. So you tweak the format a little bit. Then the next step is, the best players, the highest performing athletes, they don't participate in the contest. We saw that in the slam dunk contest. And again, Shohei Ohtani he's got a $700 million contract. He hasn't even pitched this year because he is trying to rehab his elbow, so he can ultimately get back to hitting and pitching and trying to pull off Babe Ruth numbers. But is the home run derby ultimately going to end up where the slam dunk contest is now, which is, it's a thing we still kind of do. So we may dive into that. And I've got some holiday hot takes. I got some thoughts on 4th of July. Joey Chestnut's going to be eating hot dogs with the troops, but he's not going to be eating hot dogs at Coney Island. So we may dive into the hot dog eating contest. But as I mentioned, Michael Shacker is producing the program, and he is probably likely going to drop in a nugget or two that is going to get me off on some sort of tangent. Good morning, Michael. How are we doing? Now, one of the things that you and I do have in common, we both have pets. You have multitude of pets, one of which tried to derail the show already, correct? Like you had a cat that is sick of me already and tried to unplug, and about 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes before the show, you had a cat in your house that said, I can't hear that Justin Myers guy yap on and on and on, and unplugged one of the important plugs. So we've already had an animal, a domesticated animal, try to sabotage the show, correct? All right. So the other thing that people talk about a lot around this time of year now, I don't know how or why it worked out the way it does. When I first got Crash, my dog, from the Humane Society, it was December of 2015. He was a stray. Nobody knew anything about him. He was they thought he was housebroken, but they didn't quite know. He could sit, he could walk on a leash, but that was about. So as I got my dog 8.5 years ago, I didn't know much about old Crash. And so December came around and found out, hey, good news is big guy was housebroken. They thought he was about 3. Good news was he was housebroken, so didn't have to worry about that. Also, good news was didn't chew on stuff, didn't get into too much mischief. And then I remember, because it was December, and then we went into Christmas, and then New Year's happens, and just like what's going to happen tomorrow, when New Year's comes around, fireworks go off, and Shacker, Crash has no care whatsoever in the world for fireworks. And I have realized how lucky I am as a dog owner to have a dog that does not care, does not flinch, does not whimper, does not whine, does not care one bit about the fireworks. How do your dogs do with the fireworks? Do they lose their mind? Really? He throws, so the dog gets so. See, here's the thing. I had a dog my entire life growing up. Shout out to Junie and then to Champ. So I had a dog growing up. I I don't remember. You and I are fairly close in age. I don't remember growing up in the 80s or the 90s. This was a thing. Was this one of those things that was always around, but we were just did not understand, didn't care, didn't pay any attention to? It feels like the dogs have fireworks gotten louder? Because I don't remember this being a thing when I was growing up. Oh. So you see, really, man, I see. I Crash does not care. He does not care one bit. And then there are times when I wonder because he does like Crash is also a very sweet dog and again I'm very lucky about the fireworks. He is one of the most stubborn dogs you'll ever be around. Like he will lock in, he will stop, he will be stubborn to the point where I actually thought because he's getting older and older. Shacker, I thought he was losing his hearing. I thought he might be losing it because he just won't listen half the times. I'll go out there, I'll give him the whistle, try to pull him in from the backyard. He pretends like he doesn't hear me, and so I thought, man, is the old guy just starting to lose his hearing a little bit? Then you whisper the word treat, and he perks right up. He runs over. He can hear just fine. So I know he hasn't lost his hearing, but yeah, he does. He does not care one bit. Might have been just because he had life on the streets before me. It might have been because he had, the hard scrabble life of that of a stray dog, and fireworks do not bother him one bit. But yeah, he's just gonna sit there, lay down, not even worry about it. Well, here's the other thing. I talked about this yesterday, and I'm probably going. Like I said, look, today's show is going to be a little bit weird, but I might reiterate it again and again. There are people that have the fireworks, and even if you have the big booming, shoot 'em up in the air fireworks that are illegal in the state and even more illegal inside the Portland city limits, and some of them that may light forests on fire. I am all for. I am all for fireworks on the 4th of July. I am all for celebrating the birth of this country. I am all for just a fun time, whether it's in the cul-de-sac or whether it is in on the neighborhood block of lighting off some fireworks and having a good time. I, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is about a certain population of people. I think these are the same people that open presents on Christmas Eve, who decide that maybe tonight they're going to start popping off fireworks, that they couldn't just wait because one day out of the year, well, two, I'll give you New Year's Eve, but like one day out of the year, it is the 4th of July. It is the birth of the country. Even though, yes, there were some of the founding fathers that signed the Declaration on the 3rd of July, on the 2nd. Some signed it on like the 12th of July. Just the 4th is when they put the date down. But the people that have decided that we need to fire off and pop off fireworks the day before and the day after, I don't know who these people are. I don't know who raised these people. Like I said, they feel like the same people who have opened all of their presents on Christmas Eve. But it has always been one of my biggest pet peeves. I do not understand. There are certain things in this world that I don't necessarily agree with, but I can understand. I don't understand the people who are going to be popping off fireworks tonight. And you know they're going to be out there. And then they're going to be, again, if you don't get your fill by the end of tomorrow night, well, then you take the rest of your fireworks, you put them in a closet, you put them in a Tupperware tub, put them away, and then bring them back out around New Year's. But no, all weekend long, doofuses are going to be popping off fireworks. All right, coming up next, we're going to talk some NBA. It has been a crazy week, and we've only been here for 3 days in the NBA. But Keith Smith, who covers the league, friend of the program, is going to be joining us next here on 620 Rip City Radio. All right. In just the last couple of days, Paul George is a 76er. Chris Paul is a San Antonio Spur. LeBron James will remain a Laker. Donovan Mitchell will remain a Cleveland Cavalier, and a lot of people thought that may happen. Jason Tatum just became the owner of the richest contract in NBA history, and about a week ago, the first round came and went with the Blazers getting Donovan Clingan on the roster. Joining us to talk about all things in the fast and furious NBA right now, a friend of the program, Keith Smith, back on the Big Show. Good morning, Keith. How are we doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
So I want to go as crazy as it feels like it was a month ago, the first round of the draft, because of all the things that have happened since. But it was actually just a week ago, and Keith, we talked a ton leading up to the draft that, it felt like it was a down draft. It was a draft of players that really were not all that recognizable. You got guys from France, guys from Europe. But in the end, the Blazers sat there at number 7. They got Donovan Clingan out of UConn. The Blazers have said, and I can pretty much sniff out when the Blazers are selling baloney and when they're actually kind of telling the truth. It feels like they had Clingan higher on their board than 7. When you kind of look back at the Blazers draft, what did you hear about Clingan heading into the draft, and what do you think of the pick at 7?
Yeah, I think it's an outstanding pick, and I think it's an outstanding value pick. On my personal board, I had him 2nd. I think he's going to be outstanding in the NBA in time. I don't think he's coming in day one and setting the world on fire. And part of that is going to be they've got some stuff to figure out at the center position because they've still got DeAndre Ayton. They've still got Robert Williams. So I would like to see them, make another move where they free up more playing time and a more direct path for Clingan. But I'm sure that's something that's under consideration and will come down the line. So where I'm at with the Clingan stuff is I believe that they probably had him higher on their board. I know a lot of teams had him higher. There were teams trying to get up as high as number 3 overall to draft him because they believe that much in him. So I think Portland got a really good pick, and I think he's a nice player that can really grow forward when they sort out some of the other roster stuff with Scoot Henderson, with Shaedon Sharpe. I think that's a trio you can really build around.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned kind of sorting out the roster stuff, which is what we have been talking about the last couple of days. You cover the league, and the way that it works is, you get these, you get the free agency to open up, and you hear all these sources because I think none of these moves are actually official until I think on the 7th, but they can all be essentially reported.
The 6th.
6th, excuse me. So they'll all be official on the 6th, and then we'll actually be able to instead of saying sources, we'll actually talk about us. But is there going to be kind of a second wave of moves? Because we have seen some teams kind of grasp. It seems like, Keith, there are some teams that have some need that are kind of standing back and waiting. Like, let's let that first kind of feeding frenzy happen. Do you think there's going to be maybe a second wave of moves coming up in the NBA?
I do, and I think that second wave of moves is going to be mostly trades. I think what's going to happen now is you've seen, other than DeMar DeRozan, all the big free agents have come off the board. There's other good players, don't get me wrong, but there are more guys that are going to be in the range of mid-level exception, potentially a small sign-and trade, those kind of things. So it's really kind of DeMar DeRozan is out there. We'll see. That's a weird situation because he wants more, and I don't know where he's going to get it from, so maybe something develops that we're not seeing right now. But the bigger thing is there's a lot of teams that have a lot of players that they're at least open to moving right now. You've got teams that are dealing with tax issues, teams that are dealing with apron issues. Then you've got other teams that are still looking to get better and acquire players. So that's where you're going to see a series of trades. There'll be what I like to call like the real fun trades, which is like, oh, okay, this player went for these young players, and we all kind of get it. That's the traditional. But I think we're also going to see a series of moves where it's like, why did this team make, these trades where they just dumped these guys? Well, it's probably because they've got apron issues and a whole bunch of other stuff that they've got to figure out and get there. So I think what you're going to see now is a team like the Detroit Pistons. They're going to be, like the Statue of Liberty. Bring us your tired, your hungry, your poor, your bad contract, and the draft pick with them, and we're happy.
Keith Smith covers the NBA, joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. So speaking of that, let's dive into the Blazers, because you look at the roster and you can I mentioned it yesterday on the show, Keith. If you look at the roster, kind of close one eye, squint, and tilt your head a little bit, you can kind of see a core being built here in Portland, and I'm hoping, my hope is that the building part of the rebuilding has begun, and like you mentioned, hopefully we're past the bringing on bad contracts and signing guys and releasing them, because the Blazers have now gotten out of the luxury tax. But one of the guys that is on the roster, and some people here in Portland have accused me of trying to run him out of town. I am not. I don't know if he fits the plan of where the organization is, and that's Jeremy Grant. Jeremy Grant doesn't seem to fit the timeline of the Blazers. He doesn't seem to fit the economics of the Blazers, and seems like could be valuable to another team out there. I think Jeremy Grant's going to be on the move. How valuable is he out there on the trading market coming up here in a couple of days or weeks?
Yeah, fairly valuable. Now, there are definitely some teams that are a little scared off by the length of the contract. It's not so much the size. That we can work with, but it's the 4 years left that I think have some teams a little, squirrely about. What's funny is in 3 years, teams will be fine because it'll be an expiring contract, and then those always have value because if nothing else, they're going to give you increased flexibility in the next off season. I think with Portland overall, when I look at them, I think what's important to understand is this is almost like off-season one of the rebuild, because the Damian Lillard trade took so long to get executed last year. Mm-hmm. They didn't then have the offseason to deal with the fallout, because I believe if it was not done, on the eve of training camp opening, they might have then been able to say, all right, with teams with cap space and teams with the additional roster spots, we can either expand this trade even further, or we could turn around and say, all right, we're going to move Rob Williams and Matisse Thybulle and all these other guys that they could have moved around in these trades, Malcolm Brogdon. And instead, they kind of had to sit with those guys until we got to, this summer. And now we've seen the movement with Brogdon. I think was probably maybe another move or two that could come before the end of the summer. But yeah, as far as Jeremy Grant goes, just circle back to him. I know there are teams that are interested in acquiring because they really like him as a player. The question is going to be, what is Portland going to have to take back? Because I think they understand they have to take some salary back, but you want salary back that's probably coming off the books within a year or so, because then that solves a couple of objectives.
One of the other pieces that the Blazers got on draft day with the 14th overall, and then with Malcolm Brogdon, was with Washington bringing in Denny Avdia. And I know I can't be the only Blazer fan, Keith, that went to Google as soon as that trade came in. Then pleasantly surprised went to Google because seems like in terms of what the Blazers are kind of in need of, which is length, shooting, young, affordable contracts. It feels like Avdia kind of checks all the boxes of where the Blazers are headed, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There was a world where the Malcolm Brogdon trade could have been a straight salary dump, where it was, all right, here, take a couple picks, and we'll move off the contract. Instead, they got a really good player back in that deal, and I think I've seen some people say, but why'd they have to give up 2 draft picks? Well, the way I look at it is, one was to get Avdia, and then one was to move Malcolm Brogdon. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how I'm piecing that deal together in my own brain to make it make sense. But Avdia fills a position of need. They don't have a ton of forwards there. Portland right now, they're overstuffed with bigs, and they're overstuffed with guards and ball handlers. But forwards is a position of need a little bit. And I think Avdia is going to come in and be a really good player for them. I think Blazer fans will like what he is he's just so malleable. He's a guy who can play nights where it is, all right, somebody's out and we need you to take 15 to 20 shots. All right, tonight everybody's in, and you're only going to get 7 or 8 shots, and that's enough, because he plays defense, he rebounds, he's a good passer, good ball handler. I think people will really come to like him in time, and he's on a great contract for a rebuilding team because he makes only like $15 million this year, and then it goes down every year. the one word of caution, if he really pops and it's like, oh my gosh, we got to do what we need to do to keep this guy, he's not going to be on an extendable number by the end of the deal because it's so small. But that's kind of, you let tomorrow's problem be tomorrow's problem.
Keith Smith, who covers the NBA, joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. Let's go around the league a little bit. The big news today: LeBron James signs his deal with the Lakers. Here's what's funny, Keith, and I am a bit too much of a LeBron hater because it just kind of makes me laugh that you've got a guy like, I'm not in the coaching search, I'm not in the draft room. I'm just working on a contract. And then in the end, when it's all said and done, the dust settles, Keith. LeBron got his podcast partner to be the head coach. He got his son to be drafted in the second round. And by the way, being given a contract already, will not be a two-way player. And then ho-hum just gets $100 million two-year deal. Unbelievable business savvy, but the fact that LeBron, I might take less money. I'm not in the head coaching search. I don't know who they're going to draft. JJ Redick, your son, and max extension or a max contract with $52 million.
Yeah, the reality is, I think he does himself a disservice by saying he's not doing those things. When guess what? He is the I don't know, however many superstars have been in the league. He's whatever number he is in that order of superstars to exert their influence over their team. Anybody who thinks some guys that are stars don't have say in who goes and stays on the roster and who's coaching and not, you're crazy. That's just how this game works. At the end of the day, it's about the players. Everybody else is pretty changeable. I mean, we just saw the Detroit Pistons with a contract where they've got $1 billion owed to Monty Williams. It feels like just like, all right, he's not the right guy. We're just going to eat the contract, because you can do that with coaches because there's no salary cap. So you can just move however you need to. So I think LeBron does himself a disservice by trying to say he doesn't do these things, when really, if he just kept quiet, like everybody does these things. Every single star in the league does those things. Just go. As far as the take less money, that was a real thing. Like, he was open to taking, considerably less money to free up flexibility. But he caveated with for the right moves, for the right players. Well, when Klay Thompson turned them down, when Jonas Valanciunas, it looks like didn't even have a concern about going there, then it seems like LeBron's like, all right, the right move isn't there. I might as well get my money now. And he was also very clear through everything I had been heard, told, and other reports. He was getting this done before Team USA camp opens at the end of this week, and that was it. Like, he was not going to go into that with this situation hanging over him. So I'm not surprised at all that this is where it went. The Lakers are just working against too tight of margins to do the kind of things that they want to do because of where they put themselves with the roster and the types of contracts they've given out in the past.
Keith Smith, who covers the NBA, joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. The big move just a couple of days ago, Paul George headed to the Philadelphia 76ers. Philly fans, Keith, it was if I have my roster correct in the Joel Embiid era, Philly fans, it was Ben Simmons' fault, then it was Doc Rivers' fault, then it was James Harden's fault. I think it might have been Jimmy Butler's fault in the mix there. It got all the way down to where it was Tobias Harris's fault. How important is it in the Joel Embiid and Philly that this Paul George partnership works? Because at some point, aren't Philly fans or maybe even the organization going to maybe look around and go like, hey, Joel, we keep putting all these guys with you, and it keeps being everybody else's fault but yours.
Yeah, this is it. This is the last one for them. I think, if this one doesn't go the way they want it to, and it turns into, this team is a second round out again, which is kind of the running joke that they never, no matter who they get, like, are they ever going to make it past the second round? Then I think we're in a spot where you're going to see the 76ers. Not saying, when I say this one doesn't work, I'm not saying this year, but if we get to year two, it hasn't worked out either, we're into year three and it's not going, then I think the 76ers are going to look around and say, all right, we tried. We gave it our best shot. And I think they honestly can say that they did, but it's time to make other moves. And then that'll be, all right, big fella, where do you want to go? Let's try to get you there.
Well, and it is fascinating because you look at what is going on in the East now, and There's going to be, I think, a better season from Milwaukee, depending upon health, and you get a full season with Doc Rivers, because that whole thing with the changing coaches in the middle of the season was weird. And then you look at what the Knicks are doing, which I am fascinated by, Keith, because I love college basketball as well. You know, there's always been in sports radio, especially in the summer, where you have those debates and discussions about, hey, could this Kentucky team make the playoffs in the NBA? And NBA fans like, no, they wouldn't. They would be in the lottery. But now looking at what the New York Knicks are doing, Keith, could the 2016 Villanova Wildcats make the playoffs in the NBA? Because it certainly looks like they're one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference.
Sure, yeah, a form of them with a guy from Indiana and OG Anunoby in as a through the transfer portal, I guess. For a senior year or something like that. Yeah, I mean, it's a form of them, sure. And I think the Knicks have what they're trying to do is clearly stated goal: load up on wings to try to beat Boston. Because if you're going to beat the Celtics, you need to be able to defend Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Drew Holiday, Derek White off the dribble. Like that's just the reality of that situation. You need to be able to defend those guys and make it work. I think the next piece for that for the Knicks is going to be they've got to find some more help in the front court, because right now they're down to Mitchell Robinson and not much else. But yeah, I mean, they're also prioritizing, hey, if we have a bunch of guys who come in, especially with Tom Thibodeau as the coach, they're going to work really hard and play really hard, that also enjoy being here with each other, which makes all that hard work that much easier. Let's go. Let's put it all together. And I think that is really good for them, that they found a formula that works. And I'm curious to see how it all comes together.
Unfair question as we wrap up here, because there's more moves to be made, and who knows ultimately how everything shakes out. But and by the way, it feels like the Celtics parade just ended. So again, this is way too early predictions. But looking at the trend that has been going on in the NBA, Keith, whether it was Oklahoma City this year, I think it was Memphis a couple of years ago. You could say Minnesota even this year. Teams that are kind of taking those big extra steps, even Denver making it to the finals and then winning the NBA championship. Do you see a team that's kind of poised to kind of have that Oklahoma City bump this year, or like Memphis a couple of years ago when they were the number 2 overall team in the West? I like Orlando. I like Indiana. I'm fascinated to see kind of what happens again with another round of Minnesota. Which of the teams that maybe aren't on the forefront of NBA favorites looking into next season do you like heading into the season?
Yeah, I think Orlando is a good pick. They essentially swapped out Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and lost Markelle Fultz. That's kind of where we're down to for the Magic. Like that's really what we're at, and that is a massive upgrade for that team. And the younger players are going to get better. This is not linear. This is what I always have to remind folks, though. Everybody assumes, well, we're young, we'll get better. It doesn't always go that way. Sometimes you get good, and then that's kind of as good as you are. So we'll see. But I'm pretty high on Orlando. Definitely. It sounds maybe weird to put it this way. I think OKC is still kind of that team. Like I think now, I know they were the top seed in the Western Conference, and I know they had a good team last year. But I feel like they're going to be even better this coming year. I think Isaiah Hartenstein gives them a layer of versatility that they've never really had before. And I think that is massive for them, that now they can go big to match up with Nikola Jokic. They can go big to match up with the Minnesota Timberwolves in a slightly different way. And everybody but Chet Holmgren's a matchup nightmare at the 5. Guess what? You can still do that too. Now you just have a different option to play slightly differently than the way you were before. That versatility is going to be huge for them. So those are a couple teams I think are kind of poised to take big steps forward. And then I think some of the teams that are more towards the bottom of the league, I think there's a chance those teams, not saying they're going to win and move into playoff contention, but I think they're just going to be better teams. Like I think Portland will be a better team next year, because they're not going to have had, hey, guess what? We changed out the entire half of the roster days before training camp. Figure it out on the fly. Good luck. We'll see you around the trade deadline. Like they're now going to have a little bit of normalcy. I think San Antonio, Chris Paul is going to be huge for them coming in to just stabilize their kind of get everything organized and set that up. So I'm really excited for this season where it's going. And, there is a part of it, though. You mentioned the Celtics. It does feel like they're sitting there on top of the world and handing out, $900 million worth of future contracts because they're like, hey, we're the champs. Come get us if you can. Meanwhile, we'll just re-sign our veteran bigs and run it back with the same roster as a year ago.
You can follow him on Twitter or X at Keith Smith NBA, and you can hear from time to time on this radio show. Hey, Keith, thanks so much for joining us. Great stuff as always. Have a great holiday. Enjoy the weekend, and we'll look forward to talking to you again soon.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
There you go. Keith Smith coming up. We are going to wrap up hour number 1. We continue our countdown to kickoff as we are now under 60 days to college football 2024. That is next, 620 Rip City Radio. I hope we're still on. I hope that means we're still on. And that was that was an abrupt halt there. Anyways, welcome back to the big show. It's time to wrap up hour number 1. So we continue as we have been doing all summer long, our countdown to kickoff, as we are currently at 59. Count them, 59 days away from college football 2024, and it is now time for us to go on campus. Here we go. All right. Also, we mentioned this on Monday, reiterate it today, and I'll talk about it a little bit more next week. Very, very exciting stuff coming up in the next couple of weeks as Rip City Mornings on Thursday, the 25th of July. We are going on the road. That's right. Rip City Mornings will be broadcasting live from Big Ten Media Day on Thursday, July the 25th from Indianapolis, Indiana. Whirlwind trip to Indy to get in, get the Big Ten feel, and hopefully get you some great sound and some great interviews with the big names in the now new revamped Big Ten. So July the 25th, we will be broadcasting live from Indy on Big Ten Media Day. So one of the things we have been talking about with regards to college football and the changes that are coming, because I wish it was my idea, but obviously the biggest thing this summer, other than, I don't know, conference realignment, transfer portal, also playoff expansion, all that stuff, the biggest thing in the college football world is this video game that is coming out. And it's funny because it has been, I believe, 11 years since EA Sports put out NCAA college football, and now it is just college football 25. And in those 11 years, boy, the sport doesn't look anything like it used to. And again, between conference realignment, NIL, transfer portal, all the stuff that we talk about, the fact that bowl games are going away, there is going to be a change and a shift in attitudes of what constitutes a successful year. We've talked about this before, but it used to be so easy. It used to be real easy to figure out what a successful year was, because to certain coaches, it is, hey, we got to get to a bowl game. Like, you look at, I think, Colorado right now. Even though Deion Sanders came in and talked a lot and talked about Louis Vuitton luggage and we're coming and I keep receipts and everything, right? For Colorado, they're in the old ways, manner of success would be, hey, get to a bowl game. But for a team like Colorado, what does a bowl game mean anymore? How long is it going to be? Because these bowls, I think, are at some point going to become financially just not worth it. And there are going to be teams, mark my word, that maybe go into a season with playoff aspirations who fall. And they're a 6-win team, they're a 7-win team, thought they were going to be a 9 or a 10-win team, thought they were going to be making the playoff, and they are going to withdraw from the famous Idaho Potato Bowl. Because the one thing that bowls used to bring was revenue. Bowl games used to bring revenue. You would go to the Emerald Nut Bowl or the Craft Fight Hunger Bowl or the Bad Boy Mowers Gasparilla Bowl. Those sponsors would cut a check to the bowl game. The bowl games would cut a check and from TV revenue, and the conference would get paid. Well, guess what? Now the conferences have realigned and the TV networks are already cutting a check. The revenue to the Big Ten and the SEC and even the Big 12, the revenue from those bowl games are not anywhere close to as important as they used to be, especially for teams that have massive NIL. So you think about this. If you were a team, well, let's just use Oregon, for example. Oregon going into this season, I don't want to say playoff or bust, but it's kind of playoff or bust. If There is a 12-team playoff with some automatic qualifiers. Essentially, the entire top 10 is going to get in, right? You have a group of 6 automatic qualifier that's going to get in. And there will be, whether it's the ACC champion or maybe it's the Big 12 champion, there will be somebody, or maybe an upset in the Big 10 championship game. Somebody from outside the top 10 might sneak in to the college football playoff. But for the most part, if you finish the season and you are a top 10 team and you've got some significant wins, you are going to make the playoffs. But let's just say, God forbid, the Oregon Ducks drop a couple of games, maybe drop a dumb one here or there. Oregon fans are all too used to the curse of Stanford. Don't have to play them anymore. Or the curse of going on the road to the state of Arizona. Just something about those old Pac-12 games that would always bite you and you were always weary of. Well, there's going to be one of those coming up in the Big Ten. And let's say Oregon just falls on its face and finishes the season at 7 wins. Doesn't make the college football playoff. Doesn't even make a significant bowl game. And I don't know where the new alliances would have them going, but let's just say it's the Capital One Bowl. Some non-New Year's Day bowl, not in the playoff. What would be more important for a program? To prepare for and practice for a bowl game that does not matter, or, because it's transfer portal era, to have a head coach for the entire month of December out on the road, fundraising, getting NIL collective money, using that money to upgrade at positions of need. You know what that's going to mean? Much like we saw with Oregon State, even though it was with a coaching change, and Trent Bray was named the head coach, and he was like, yeah, I'm not going to coach the bowl game. I got to go recruit. There's going to be more and more teams and more coaches that are just going to be like, yeah, we've got opt-outs. I'm going to be opting out as a head coach. And as a matter of fact, we're not that far off, I think, from a college football team just saying, we don't want to go to your bowl game, sorry. Thank you for the invitation, Capital One Bowl, but we shall be declining this year. And so it is going to really change the idea of what is a successful season, because for a long time, at least we made a bowl game. That one might not last all that much longer. What will be happening is college football will kick off in 59 days from today. Also, what will happen is hour number 2 comes up next, 620 Rip City Radio. It is 7 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. Justin Myers with you. Early this morning, LeBron James has agreed to a 2-year, $104 million maximum contract to return to the Los Angeles Lakers. Surprise, surprise. Sources told ESPN Adrian Wojnarowski the deal also includes a player option for the 2025-2026 season and a no-trade clause. Shohei Ohtani will not be participating in the Home Run Derby on July the 15th, despite the Japanese superstar ranking second in the majors with 27 homers for the LA Dodgers, cites elbow rehab in his reason to not participate in the Home Run Derby. Who will be participating in the big show in hour number 3, friend of the program, Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor, joins us. But hour number 2 of Rip City Morning starts right now on 620 Rip City Radio. And welcome back to Rip City Mornings. I am your host, Justin Myers. Brendan out for the day and for, well, the rest of the week because we're all off for the rest of the week. This is one of those anomalies in the calendar where I know they always have the studies every year. We always hear about the Thursday of March Madness. The Thursday of March Madness and the Monday after the Super Bowl. Like those are the two biggest days on the sports calendar in terms of lack of productivity, where just nobody gets any work done whatsoever, right? It's always like, hey, Thursday of March Madness, you get excited about the games, the office pool, and the brackets are out and everything else. And then there's always, again, which is why living on the West Coast is always the best. But because I understand it, I just have never experienced it, which is the Monday after the Super Bowl. Now, I've also been in sports radio for like the last 20 years. So like the Monday after the Super Bowl, kind of a big day in the biz. I don't know what it is like to go and get wicked wasted on Sunday afternoon during the Super Bowl, because it's always been a fairly important day in terms of the sports media world. But you always think about, like, if you could invent or create a sports holiday, which one do you choose? If you could become holiday czar, right? There's got to be somebody somebody creates the holidays, and we just kind of decide which ones we take off and which ones we don't. But if you could just become the holiday czar, for whatever reason, you just get put in charge of the holiday calendars. And you are obviously listening to this show, so you are a sports fan. What's the holiday you would create simply around the sports world? Because we already get New Year's Day, which used to be obviously the biggest day in college football for New Year's Day Bowls. Regular season, that's why college football, one of the many, many reasons why college football is the absolute best, because you play the games on Saturday, so you can go out, have a good time, travel, have a chance to get back. So the two options that I'm thinking of is you either go Super Bowl Monday, which is going to be weird because they keep saying that they're going to be moving the Super Bowl in the next coming year. Shacker, have you heard about this? Because they've gone to the 17-game calendar, and that at some point the NFL is going to look to add an 18th game, and then they're going to move the Super Bowl even another further week down. Have you heard that? Can I tell you why that plan's a bit of a pickle for me? That weekend is my wedding anniversary every single year. When my now wife and I had planned our wedding, the plan, because again, while my wife likes sports, she enjoys sports, she's not a crazy sports person like me. But when you do plan a wedding and you think about an anniversary, you go like, man, what? Don't want to plan it around any significant sporting event. Because, at some point you want to take an anniversary trip. You want to have an anniversary dinner. So when we first planned our wedding, it was May of 2020. As you could imagine, if you think back in the calendars, May of 2020. Yeah, that wedding date didn't happen. But it was May of 2020. So I figured May, what a perfect time, right? Yeah, it's in the middle of the NBA playoffs, but it's not in the middle of the NBA finals. We're in the off season of football. It's not a fall wedding. It's like, oh, let's do May. March Madness is over. Boom. May of 2020. Yeah, the universe had different ideas. Then it got moved to February. And I remember when we were first planning this, because I had a lot of friends who were coming to the wedding who were part of, covering NFL teams. And I'm like, well, if we do it in February, we can't do it the week of the Super Bowl. So we planned it out. 2 weeks after the Super Bowl. Perfect time. Well, if you remember, that was when the NFL added the extra week. It got a little bit dicey. And then all of a sudden, like, all right, we're still a week away. So every year now, the week after the Super Bowl is my wedding anniversary. So, hey, football season's over. Come and do the show. We can still take an anniversary trip if we want. Not now. Roger Goodell in the NFL is talking about just now swallowing, because this is what the things that people don't think of. Purposely put the wedding, one, because my wife loves the winter and winter colors and all that stuff, but also purposely, I was like, all right, if we're having this wedding in February, great. Got to know when the Super Bowl is. So now the NFL might be swallowing up my wedding anniversary. What's that? Bring back NFL. So start NFL season Labor Day weekend. Keep Super Bowl where it is right now. I actually like that move. I like that move. It is interesting that the NFL doesn't take over Labor Day weekend, because if you think about what the NFL has been able to do, you ever see the movie Friday, Shacker? So in the movie Friday, there is the actor. His name is Tiny Tim Lester. He played Zeus in the movie No Holds Barred, which had Hulk Hogan, who also played the character Rip. But anyways, Tiny Tim Lester. He played Debo. Debo was the biggest bully on the block in the movie Friday, and didn't matter if it was right, wrong, whatever Debo wanted to do, he did, because he was the biggest bully on the block. And I think everybody that kind of grew up in the 80s and 90s, before bullying became this scourge that could be shamed, when you grew up actually with bullies, everybody kind of had that guy. Just, hey, whatever you do, don't mess with so-and-so. He's either crazy or there was the kid that hit the growth spurt, the kid that hit puberty by like 5th grade. It was like, whatever you do, don't mess with that guy. Big bully on the block, and they just did whatever they want. That's the NFL, right? The NBA used to own Christmas Day, right? It's one of the perfect days for the NBA to showcase. It's early enough in the season, but we're all sitting around on Christmas Day with our families, looking for something to put on the TV. Usually by Christmas Day, we've had enough talks. We've maybe had some fights. We've never had some uncomfortable moments. It's like, let's just sit here before we have Christmas dinner, and let's just throw the NBA on, right? We got 4 games, 5 games in a row, and then this last year, the NFL was like, hey, Christmas is on a Sunday. We play on Sunday. We should just play Christmas games. And then it happened, and it worked out well. And the NFL is like, oh, hey, NBA, I know you've kind of always had that Christmas Day thing, but I hope you enjoyed it, because we're just going to take it. Because the NFL, inside the parameters of the calendar of their season, the NFL can just have whatever day they want. It's like I know you guys are used to having Christmas Day all to yourself. But just so you know, when it did fall on a Sunday, we played. We liked it. We're going to go ahead and take that from you. So hope you enjoyed it, NBA. I know you had a good run, and, you had fancy uniforms, and guys would wear custom sneakers, and that's cool and all. But, yeah, we're just going to go ahead and play NFL games on Christmas now. And they just took it from the NBA. I'm shocked that the NFL hasn't done that quite yet to college football on Labor Day weekend. Now, I'm not saying the Saturday because I firmly believe, and I might be a bit delusional, but I firmly believe there's only one sports entity out there that can actually stand up to the big bully on the block, and that's college football. I've said it forever and ever. Look at the numbers. Not viewership on the TV. I'm talking about butts in seats. Look at college football stadiums. How many 90-plus thousand seat stadiums do you have in college football? The Big House, Neyland Stadium, Bryant-Denny Stadium. I think Penn State goes over 90,000. There's the Rose Bowl. You look at the amount of college football stadiums that go 90,000 plus. And I believe there is one in the NFL, and that's Jerry's World in Dallas. One. More people go to and watch college football games. If there's ever one entity that could stand up to the big bully on the block, it is college football. But then every once in a while, college football does dumb stuff like, hey, we got a national championship game that we're going to be playing in January. Should we play it on a Saturday like every other game that we play? And the fact that it has been one of our special sauces in making college football special is that we play games on Saturday because a college football game is not just a 3-hour not a 3-hour sporting event. It is a day-long social event. That's why college football is so special. It's a day-long social event. There's a beginning, there's a game in the middle, there's an after, there's a pre-party, there's a post-party, and all things in between. Yeah, well, let's play on a Monday because we're scared of the NFL. But I wonder what would happen because college football has taken over. We do our countdown to kickoff. We are 59 days away. That is Labor Day weekend is what we are talking about. Wonder what would happen if the NFL just came in on Labor Day, Sunday and Monday. Go, hey, college football. Yeah, we're going to play on Sunday, and we're going to have a Monday Night Football. And I know you like to have these showcase games all throughout Labor Day weekend and have kind of owned that all to yourself because we had preseason and cuts, and you get an episode of Hard Knocks, which is fun. But it would be interesting to see what that fight would look like. All right, coming up next, speaking of the NFL, though, obviously there is a ton of quarterback talk at the top of the NFL, but there's also some interesting quarterbacks with a lot in terms of their careers and legacy on the line. We'll talk about that next. 620 Rip City Radio. All right, 1 hour from now, we're going to talk to Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor, friend of the program, get his thoughts on 4th of July, fireworks. He comes from the great state of Alaska. I think it's like, I think they're at the part of the year where it's like daylight all the time there now. So I always remember that as a kid. Like that was one of the longest wait ever as a kid is Christmas Eve to Christmas morning, right? Like just as a kid, longest wait is Christmas Eve to Christmas morning. I would say another long wait as a kid, the night before, like the last day of school, the second to last day of school, because last day of school is always the best. You would usually have like some sort of field day, and then you're pumped up. Christmas vacation, the teachers are checked out, but like the day before, that's a long wait as a kid. One of the other like sneaky long waits is it's 4th of July. You've done the snakes and the sparklers, right? You've had, maybe you've had a picnic. Maybe you've had, if your town was like my town, maybe you had a 4th of July parade. You went to the 4th of July parade. You saw the fire trucks running through. They're throwing candy off of fire trucks. Shacker, I don't know. Do they do that anymore? I would imagine with did COVID kill off throwing candy from fire trucks at small town parades? Do we know about that? No. When was the last parade you can remember being at? Yeah. So like I used to live downtown. And so anytime there was some sort of parade, we'd get like a nice like there was the staging area of a couple of parades were like right across the street from my apartment that I lived in downtown. So like I've been to I haven't actually probably since the 90s like voluntarily said, you know what, we should go to and travel to said parade. Probably been that long. Like I've accidentally been in a parade and accidentally been, walking around going like, oh, there's a parade today, but not really. But yes, I do remember 4th of July parade. Very big deal. Very big deal growing up in Winston, the fire trucks and the police and everything running the sirens. And then they would always throw candy and you would fight, not literally fight, but come close to nearly fighting kids for crappy butterscotch candies or knockoff Jolly Ranchers. Like they weren't real Jolly Ranchers. They were just other like hard candies that your grandma would have in a bowl at her house. They might have. Where do you rank sweet tarts in terms of an overall candy? Because I am as a kid, sweet tarts, Jolly Ranchers, Spree. Did you ever have the Spree? Sweet tarts over Spree. I was a Spree head. I was all about it. I loved the Spree. The red ones, they were the best. I would have Spree up there. Were you a Skittles fan? 'Cause I was out on Skittles. your Skittles. Your body has built up a Skittles tolerance, is what you were saying. You have a tolerance to Skittles to where now you don't even catch a Skittle buzz until it is extreme Skittles. So, all right, let me throw out some candies here, and I would like to hear whether you would put them top tier, middle tier, or bottom tier, because I am now like, if I'm going to eat candy, it's going to be chocolate. I don't waste the time. But as a kid, the fruity candy, here's what I would consider top level or in the argument for fruity candies. I'm putting Spree in there because I love them. But they're probably not elite. Do they? I don't even know if they make Spree anymore. Do they exist in this world, do you think? Okay, good to know. So you've got Sweet Tarts, you've got Starburst, you have got Mentos, you have got Skittles, you've got Jolly Ranchers. I think that might be like the 5 family of fruity categories. Now, I'm not counting gummy bears, gummy worms, Sour Patch Kids. Those are their own category. Those are the gummy categories. And not to be confused with the adult gummy category, which is very, very different. And that's talk about building up a tolerance. But of the fruity candies, and I'm not talking, you can't go like extreme like anymore, but like, let's just say it's 1993. It's 1993. You have got 75 cents because you could get candy for 75 cents back then. Which one are you going for? You going for the Sweet Tarts? All right. I've had. Really? You realize like you're in the minority on that, right? That most people prefer the pink Starburst Elite. I'm with you. Red is the GOAT. Red's the. Oh boy, could you imagine? Could you imagine if they what if you could just buy a Skittles, but they're only red Skittles? You know what I mean? Or you would get a pack of Starburst only red. I'm with you there. I think you can buy. All right, let's go back to gummy bears, gummy worms. Does shape matter? Because I've had this argument with regard to with donuts. I feel that shape matters, and that because I love a good maple bar, but to me a maple bar is a pastry. It's not a donut. To me, a donut must be a circle with a hole in the middle, and that everything else is not a donut, that it is a pastry. Like a bear claw is a pastry. It's not a donut. You go, but so I've always said shape matters. Just like a taco and a burrito is the same ingredients, but they're different shapes, and it matters. If you say I want a taco and somebody brings you a burrito, you'd be like, that's not what I asked for. So gummy bears versus gummy worms, does the shape matter, or is it all just about the flavor to you? What are the ones, because I was not a gummy candy fan. What are the ones that are like they're a circle with a square in the middle? What are those? They're like, I think they're like pastels. They're like green. I don't. Trolley, that's the one that does it, right? Isn't that? Yeah. So of the gummy bears versus the gummy worms, which one's your goat? Gummy bears. Where are you on Jelly Bellies? Where are you on the Jelly Belly train? Mm. Yeah, you catch a butter popcorn in there, mix it in with with like a strawberry or something, like a strawberry daiquiri. I think they have a strawberry daiquiri. Is a Jelly Belly, but I've had like the regular jelly beans, and I always thought like, yeah, those are okay. They're all right, but not my favorite. And then you have the Jelly Belly, and you get like the big. When I was growing up, you get the big bag from Costco, and it had like the guide in the back, right? And it would kind of show you. But then some looked like the toasted marshmallow looks an awful lot like I think like peanut butter or something, and it would throw you for a loop. The butter popcorn was always a freaky one. Also the one that tasted like bubble gum because it tasted like and it had a consistency of bubble gum, but then it wasn't gum. That would throw you for a loop as well. But the A&W cream soda Jelly Belly for non-chocolate candy, I would put up there with anything. Those were the best. If you could just give me a bag of the A&W cream soda Jelly Bellies, I'm all in. What are they? Harpo? What are the gummy bear? What's the Harpo? Isn't that what it's called? You just run into the bulk and just get the big giant gallon bag full of gummy bears. All right. Should we talk about some sports? Nah, why not? So you have got a conversation we had yesterday on the show, which was if you, because I thought about this with Jason Tatum, right? If Jason Tatum is probably the most investable basketball player in the NBA, and that's why he now has the most money of anybody in the NBA, right? You think about age, talent, marketability, everything else. I think of all the players in the NBA, Jason Tatum is the most investable, which is why he got the big deal on Shark Tank, right? This is why he got the 5 years, $300 million plus. And so we were having this conversation yesterday about outside of Patrick Mahomes, because Patrick Mahomes is the most investable player in the NBA. If you had a chance to redraft the league every single time, Patrick Mahomes is going number one. He is. He's going number one. After that, because you would probably invest in quarterbacks, after that, you could make an argument for Burrow, Herbert, Josh Allen, Trevor Lawrence, and we even got all the way down to C.J. Stroud. I think C.J. Stroud would be a investable quarterback. Sticking with the Shark Tank motif. Also, Shagger, you watch Shark Tank? We've lost him. You've never seen Shark Tank? Yep. So you're out. Okay. So don't worry about it. You don't need to have a frame of reference. So Shark Tank, people come in. They have these. Have you ever watched Pawn Stars then? Have you watched Pawn Stars? Does it also bug you because the haggling part is clearly scripted and they're like trying to. It's clearly scripted. Yeah, because it is clearly scripted. Like, they're like, hey, here's the price. And they're like, could you do 1,700? It's like, no. Like, it's clearly scripted back and forth. Anyways, the point I was trying to make is if you've got these top-tier quarterbacks in the NFL, and if you had the money, if you could redraft the league, boy, these would be the guys you would take. And that's, of course, Josh Allen. It's Patrick Mahomes. It's Lamar Jackson. It's Joe Burrow. It's Justin Herbert. So on and so forth. I'm not ready to put Brock Purdy in that category, but I think he's closer than most people want to put him in, simply because people in the NFL or NFL fans cannot get over the whole draft stuff. I mean, you can even go back. Like, we look at Tom Brady now in a very different light than we looked at Tom Brady even after Tom Brady won his first Super Bowl. We could not get over the whole, he was drafted so late, though. System quarterback, the defenses, when it took Tom Brady multiple years before finally people caved and was like, yeah, he might be the best quarterback in the league. And now, I mean, there's debates to be had, but Tom Brady starts and stops every greatest quarterback of all time conversation. 7 rings will do that. I'm wondering if you look at the rest of the quarterbacks in the league, or just a handful of other quarterbacks, who would be like the sneaky Shark Tank, watch out for big year from this quarterback. I think of like Jared Goff a couple of years ago, right? Jared Goff was on the scrap heap. The Rams ran him out of town. And, I mean, for obvious reasons, right? They wanted to go get Matt Stafford. They got it. They made the deal. Detroit's like, we can make it work with Jared Goff. It took a couple of years, but they brought in Matt Stafford, and he won a Super Bowl. It made sense. But Jared Goff was seemingly one bad season away from being out of the NFL. And all of a sudden, it's working out in Detroit. Weird. He got some offensive linemen. He got some weapons to throw to. He got a coach that believes in him, as opposed to a coach who was trying to trade him out of town every single way. And he had a spectacular year. He is no longer on the scrap heap of NFL quarterbacks. Jared Goff isn't top tier, but he is no longer on the scrap heap. So if you look at quarterbacks in the league right now who could maybe come in and is one good to great season away from springboarding themselves into the conversation of best in the league, or, as Jared Goff kind of was, one bad season away from being out of the league, who's the biggest Shark Tank steal? And this question popped into my head because I am hoping upon hope that my beloved Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be able to pull this off with Russell Wilson. Because Russell Wilson is, of all the quarterbacks in the league, the one guy teetering on this line. He is walking a tightrope unlike any quarterback has ever walked, because if he has a bad 4 games, the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to release him. They're going to eat the $1 million they're paying him, and then they're going to put Justin Fields in there. And Justin Fields has more leeway because you have years and years and years to potentially build upon Justin Fields. Yeah, you got 7 games if you're Russell Wilson. 7. But is Russell Wilson going to potentially be kind of the Shark Tank steal? The ring camera of quarterbacks. What am I talking about? The guy that invented the ring camera, you know, those things that everybody has? He went into the Shark Tank, and everybody said, yeah, that's a dumb idea. Dumb idea. There's too much technology. You want too much money. You think this company is far too valuable. And, oh, boom, boom, boom. Guess what? Ring cameras everywhere. I've got Russell Wilson on the list. I've got Kirk Cousins on the list, right? Because Kirk Cousins is another guy who is, you have one bad stretch run, people in Atlanta are going to start calling for Michael Penix. Dak Prescott, I think he's on that list as well. And I think up in Seattle, I'm going to be very fascinated to see how much, for the new coach trying to implement a new culture in Seattle, how much, and it was clear, by the way, that the Seahawks were trying to move Geno Smith or trying to find any way, shape, or form to upgrade the quarterback position. I'm fascinated to see what happens with Geno Smith in Seattle. He might be one of those make-or-break guys. Daniel Jones at the Giants, definitely a make-or-break guy. But you've got some interesting situations, not the top-tier quarterbacks in the league, but you've got about 4 or 5 guys that they're about 4 or 5 bad games away from being replaced and maybe potentially being out of the league. On top of, you've got unbelievable top-tier quarterbacks in the league. Coming up next, we wrap up hour number 2, stuff we saw on the internet. Next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, wrapping up hour number 2. We've tentatively titled this segment Stuff I Saw on the Internet. I spend too much time on the Internet, and my wife can only see so many stories. So some of them I save for you guys. And I found this. So we're going to talk some more college football coming up in hour number 3. Tyson Alger is going to join the show. Also found an interesting ranking system with regard to college football programs going from the pre-NIL world to the post-NIL world. So we're going to dive into that coming up. But college football is going through a ton of changes and big-time changes from conference realignment, as I mentioned, NIL and transfer portal and everything else, ultimately leading to where I think eligibility is going to be but a figment of the past. I don't believe eligibility is even going. How far until we get to college football where they don't even have to go to class? And I know that technically, you're like, Justin, they never did. I know, but they had to at least pretend like they did. And I liked the pretending that they had to. But one of the other big changes this weekend that I don't know if I am quite prepared for, because I've said it multiple times. I know that Oregon's going to the Big Ten. This show is going to be at Big Ten Media Day. I know that Ohio State in October is going to be coming to Autzen Stadium as a conference opponent. I see still doesn't feel real to me. And just like that, tomorrow, while it will be the 4th of July, and picnics and barbecues shall be had, and fireworks shall be lit off, and patriotic songs like God Bless the USA by Lee Greenwood shall be played. One thing is going to be changed forever. The 4th of July tradition, unlike any other, which is the hot dog eating contest, right? Because is there anything more American than eating hot dogs as fast as you can for 10 minutes and seeing who shall come out the winner, right? And if you are some British snob going like, why do you eat so many hot dogs? Like, that's why you lost back in 1776, all right? If you had the American spirit to hammer hot dogs the way that we do each and every 4th of July, you know what? Maybe you wouldn't be a loser back in 1776. So it is with that that we celebrate this great country with fireworks and songs and hammering hot dogs left and right. Justin, hot dogs aren't even American. Don't care that they're not American. I know they're Frankfurters from Frankfurt, Germany. I know where hot dogs come from. Does not matter. We made them our own. Just like we made pizza our own, just like we made tacos our own, all right? So, all that being said, well, it's going to be a weird 4th of July hot dog eating contest. Shacker, no Joey Jaws Chestnut. He has been banned. Joey Chestnut, the all-time greatest hot dog eater in the history of the world, has been banned from the 4th of July hot dog eating contest. But does that mean he's going down without a fight? No. First off, you mentioned Labor Day being an NFL. It should be an NFL weekend, and it's a big college football weekend. Turns out
those Sunday college football matchups don't do it for me.
Well, how do you feel about the greatest hot dog eaters of all time on Labor Day, live on Netflix with Joey Josh Chestnut going up against why can't I think Kobayashi going up against Kobayashi? Now that's something to celebrate the end of summer right there. It's just hammering hot dogs left and right.
I'm looking forward to that. I love the hot dog eating contest. And with knowing that it's on Netflix, I don't have to watch it live. I could stream it later or fast forward to the end just to get the number.
But now that you know that
feeling like it.
Joey Chestnut, the greatest of all time, the GOAT of hot dog eating, will not be participating tomorrow. Are you watching the Nathan's hot dog eating contest tomorrow?
I think this is a good thing because then we'll maybe get a new champion. There'll be some new characters that will get some screen time instead of Joey Chestnut keeping it all for himself. So I want to see if there's other competitors out there that can keep up with them.
So
we all know Joey Chestnut's the GOAT, but who's next?
So much like in the NBA, where we are definitely seeing, while LeBron and Steph Curry and James Harden, Kevin Durant are all still in the league, they are clearly being replaced. And just like we have seen in the league multiple debates and discussions about the NBA of who shall be the face of the league, right? Because that's an all-important title. It was Magic and Bird, and then it was Jordan, and then it was Shaq and Kobe, and then it was LeBron. And it's been LeBron and Steph for a long, long time, much like in that spirit of who shall be the face of the NBA. You are looking forward to competition now for the face of hot dog eating because it has been dominated by two entities, which is Kobayashi and Joey Chestnut. And now you're saying we want more. We want more from our hot dog eating celebrities, and we need a new face of hot dog eating.
Yeah. It's like the Olympics without Michael Phelps. I mean, you just need to see who's next, who's going to take it from here.
How many hot
Joey
dogs?
Chestnut can't do this forever.
How many hot dogs could you eat in 10 minutes?
2.
There was a time in my life, and it is not the current time because I can't eat like I used to, but I used to be a very fat person, and hot dogs were my jam. There was a time where I think I could have, in 10 minutes, I probably could have gotten somewhere around 7 or 8. I think I've got of like normal like hot dogs. We got 1 minute left. I brought this up to Brendan. Here's what I want to see also in the new face of hot dog eating. You should have to eat the hot dog and the bun at the same time. Like how the good Lord intended us to be eating hot dogs. You know, you want to have a water there because we can't have a choking hazard. But I believe what we should do is we should go back to its roots as a hot dog eating country and say, you know what? From here on out, no separating the dog from the bun, no dunking the hot dogs and the buns in the water. Eat the hot dog as they were intended, and let's see who's the real champion. You could have a water there to drink so you don't choke, but I want to see who the real champion, the champion of actual real hot dog eating contest is.
I'd rather just see one hot dog eaten, but it needs to be like, 100 feet long. Who can eat it first.
So going more for bulk instead of for quantity.
Yeah.
They just create like a 4 foot long dog and just let's see who finishes first. I like that.
Yeah.
But still, hot dog with bun at the same time. Right? That's how we're supposed to be eating hot dogs. All right. With all the changes that's going on in college football, are you better or are you worse? Tell you what we mean coming up next, 620 Rip City Radio. It is 8 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. Justin Myers with you. Earlier this morning, LeBron James has agreed to a 2-year, $104 million maximum contract to return to the Los Angeles Lakers. No surprise there. His podcast co-host is the head coach, and his kid plays for the team. Adrian Wojnarowski reported this earlier this morning. Deal includes a player option for the 2025-2026 season and a no-trade clause. Shohei Ohtani will not be in the Home Run Derby on July the 15th, despite the Japanese superstar ranking second in the majors with 27 homers for the L.A. Dodgers. And speaking of a big participant not participating, Joey Chestnut will not be at the hot dog eating contest on Coney Island. He will instead be eating hot dogs in competition with the troops at Fort Bliss, Texas. I just added that one in for fun. Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor joins the show in 20 minutes. We have got an RCM mailbag and plus minus from 5 years ago to now. How's your college football program doing? 620 Rip City Radio. And welcome back to Rip City Mornings, everybody. Hopefully you are having a fantastic Wednesday. As I mentioned, Tyson Alger is going to be joining the program in approximately 20 minutes as we get ready for a big holiday weekend. We're less than 60 days away from college football kickoff. Media Day is right around the corner. Mentioned it earlier this morning, but if you did not hear, fun fact and fun announcement. Rip City Mornings, this show right now with yours truly, we will be going on the road in a couple of weeks. July the 25th, Indianapolis, Indiana, as we will be broadcasting live from Big Ten Media Day. And Oregon and Washington featured on Thursday, July the 25th. So we will be at Big Ten Media Day in Indy. Will I be able to get to St. Elmo Steakhouse and try the shrimp cocktail? We shall see. Never been to the great state of Indiana. Never been to the fantastic city of Indianapolis. Look forward to it, and also look forward to all of the Big Ten Media Day hoopla that surrounds it. And I saw this on Twitter, and just warning to Oregon State fans, I apologize in advance. I don't mean this in a mean-spirited way. I really don't, what I'm about to talk about for the next 9 minutes or so. This is not meant to be mean-spirited, but it is such a crazy juxtaposition, and I think I'm using that word correctly. So Stuart Mandel of The Athletic, big-time college football writer, talked about how all of the changes that are going on in college football, we've seen NIL, we've seen transfer portal, right? That has been part of college football for the last 2 years, and it is becoming more and more normalized. Conference realignment is really been a part of college football for a long, long time, but has never had a bigger impact than it has this particular offseason. The only other time maybe conference realignment had as close of an impact was going back to the 90s when the Big Eight was absorbed by the leftovers of the Southwest Conference and created the Big 12. But even still, what we are seeing here in conference realignment, as big of a change as anything as we've ever seen in the sport of college football. So Stuart Mandel says between realignment, a 12-team college football playoff, NIL being part of the everyday life of college football, alongside the transfer portal and more, we are in now a completely new era of college football. If you forget TV money, is your team better off or worse off or the same in terms of what the on-field success is going to look like? And as crazy as it sounds, I don't know of a state that could have two bigger extremes than what is going on in Eugene and than what is going on in Corvallis, right? Even if you go to Oklahoma, right? The Oklahoma Sooners left the Big 12 along with Texas, and they left the Big 12 kind of high and dry. Yet, the Big 12 still exists. There's also rumors circulating that maybe even in as early as a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, there may be some big news with regard to the ACC. Keep an eye on Florida State. Keep an eye on Clemson. There could be more dominoes to fall. But if you look at Oklahoma, yeah, I think the Oklahoma Sooners going to the SEC. Now, you could make the argument that, well, with tougher competition, is Oklahoma in the SEC still going to be able to play for national championships? I believe that they will if they have the right guy in Brent Venables. But Oklahoma State, while they kind of got left behind, they're still in the Big 12. They're still somewhat in the mix. Same thing with TCU. TCU still in the mix. Then you look at what's going on in our great state with regard to college football. I have said no team has benefited more, in my personal opinion. No team has benefited more from NIL and transfer portal than Oregon. Zero, zilch, none, nada. No team has benefited more. From where Oregon was to where Oregon is and where Oregon is headed, a lot of that, goes on Dan Lanning. A lot of that goes on they hired the right guy. That's huge. And I know he's had 2 seasons yet to beat Washington, yet to win a conference title. Let's pump the brakes a little bit. Still won back-to-back 10-game seasons and is, for this part in his coaching career, maybe the best recruiter Oregon has ever seen. Now, does recruiting equal wins or equal championships, I should say? Not quite yet. But if you're an Oregon fan and you had the chance to spin the coaching wheel, right? Think about this, like from where your college football coach is, every other coach in the country is on a big, like, Wheel of Fortune wheel. And you could get Kirby Smart. You could get Lane Kiffin. You could get Steve Sarkisian. If you're an Oregon fan and they say, all right, you can either keep Dan Lanning or you can spin the coaching wheel and get any one of, let's say, the 60 or so Power 4 coaches in America. No Oregon fan is going to spin that wheel. Zero, zilch, none, nada. Nobody's spinning that wheel. And the reason I say Oregon has benefited the most from NIL and transfer portal is because look at where they were and now look at where they are. Oregon's always been fairly good at recruiting, but it's never been in the same breath as Ohio State, as Alabama, as now Georgia. Big time, blue blood, multiple 5 stars in their backyard programs. Oregon's never been able to compete year in and year out with those programs. Sure, they've had blips on the radar. And yeah, every once in a while, like when Mario Cristobal, he got, Justin Flo, he got Kayvon Thibodeau, he got Noah Sewell, Panay Sewell, right? He's had his fair share of big-time, high-profile, 5-star recruits. But even still on a player-to-player, apples-to-apples, who's winning in the recruiting game, Oregon has never been in the same breath as Ohio State, as Alabama under Saban. Now we'll see what happens with Alabama under Kalen DeBoer. Seems to be doing fine, but has never been in the same breath as those big-time blue blood pro. They've been close. Now you look at what NIL has done. And even though Oregon has half the NIL budget of Texas or Texas A&M, you are seeing players, and especially I think transfers, realize the power of the swoosh. Because Oregon gets to sell more than just, hey, you want a check? No, not only do we have a check, but you get to be a Nike athlete. You are an endorser of Nike. You succeed at Oregon, guess what? You are swoosh family for life. Take care of you. Marcus Mariota has had a subpar, and I think that's putting it lightly, NFL career. Yeah, he's had some flashes, and he's had some injuries, but Marcus Mariota has subpar NFL career. He's still swoosh family for life because he won that Heisman Trophy back in 2014. So while some teams like Texas can just call up some oil baron, right? Old Boss Hogg, big Texas fan. Actually, I think Boss Hogg would probably be a Georgia fan because Hazard County was in Georgia. But regardless, you call up old oil tycoon. You call up some fat cat investor, some hedge fund guy who's there in Dallas, a guy that wears a sport coat with jeans, but he's got boots on. It's been a while since he's been out in the pasture, but he still's got boots that he wears to his high rise in Dallas. Goes like, all right, we need this quarterback. All right, cut a check. Nice transaction. You come to Texas, you get an NIL check. Oregon is being able to sell more than just NIL. The Oregon is selling, and I know I'm sounding like a massive, complete homer, but you look at how is Oregon pulling off the transfer portal that it has, the high school recruiting that it has when it's not just buying players. Sure, there's cash. Sure. But they're not just buying players because there's still something, I think, about a player, whether you are in high school or even at the college level, going like, I get to be endorsed by Nike? Yeah, Adidas, New Balance. They've got a handful of players out there. Every player at Oregon has the potential of being a swoosh athlete. There have been some teams that have taken their elevated status and managed to continue it with big bags of money, right? Texas, thriving in the NIL era. Alabama was thriving. Georgia, thriving. But they always were. There always was a potential to thrive. Oregon has always had kind of this one uphill battle, which is the high school football in the state does not produce blue chip athletes. And I say this as a high school football player from this state. Sure, there has been the Joey Harringtons and the Justin Herberts, but you think about offensive and defensive linemen, you think about just position by position, the amount of 5-star, 4-star blue chip athletes. Oregon doesn't have a backyard hotbed recruiting base that Southern Cal, Texas, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, all of those schools have. Yet you put an NIL transfer portal rules on Oregon with a coach like Dan Lanning who has been able to figure out all of a sudden the recruiting class for next year is in the top 5 already. They had a top 10 recruiting class last year. You look at the transfers that they are getting in, whether it was Bo Nix, who was in the Heisman Trophy presentation last year. Dylan Gabriel is the odds-on favorite, I believe, right now in Vegas to win the Heisman Trophy. How are they able to pull this off? Well, because now, instead of going wink, nudge, hey, we're Nike Universe, now it's like, no, you're a Nike athlete. You come here, you're a Nike athlete. Done and done. On top of that, you'll have a 12-team college football playoff. I don't know of another program the last 10 to 15 years who has gotten closer and closer and closer to getting to a playoff only to have it all fall apart. Well, 12-team playoff puts a little bit more cushion in that. All right, we're going to talk about this plus a whole bunch of other stuff with our good friend Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor. That's next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, the calendar has shifted. It is gone from June to July. That's how a calendar works. But also, our attention now starts headed towards media days, starts heading towards training camp, start looking towards the schedule, and also apparently it's still a big recruiting time in college football. Joining us now to talk about all that and a boatload of other topics, friend of the program from the I-5 corridor, back on the big show, Tyson Alger. How are we doing, Tyson?
I'm good, man. Happy July to you and yours.
I love July. A lot of people in this industry, Tyson, they might say, Justin, there's nothing to talk about in July. Boy, it must be a tough time of year for you. And I was like, well, no. I did a 10-minute discussion with Michael Shacker about Sweet Tarts versus Skittles versus Starburst. So I'm in my wheelhouse right now.
I was gonna say, like, this is where you really separate yourself, because for other people this may be a tough month, but this is heaven for you.
Well, and so I did want to ask you this. We talk a lot about because I am very fascinated and curious about what life was like growing up in the great state of Alaska. And are we now at the time where it's like daytime all day there? It's like there's no like the sun doesn't set at all.
Yeah, for the most part. Like once you get into late May through like mid-July or so, at least where I grew up, it would be, we weren't quite like all the way north in Alaska where like the sun doesn't go down at all. But like peak June, July, where I grew up, it would be like the light we have right now would be about like 11:30 p.m. or so. And in around like 2 a.m. or so, it would kind of go down, but it would just kind of stay almost like sunsetty for a couple hours, and then it would come back up. And it made it really tough, like to have like a high school job, because I mowed I mowed the greens at the local golf course, and I had to be there at 5 a.m. And it was really tough when you're like 16 and like your friends at like 10:45 are like, hey, let's go play home run derby. It's still light out. Well, yeah, it's always still light out, guys. Like I have a job, and I regret not hitting a few more home runs, Justin. I appreciate you asking me and having this therapy session with me this morning.
Well, the other reason why I wanted to ask you about it, because I remember as a kid, like 4th of July was a very big deal, but it was always like, we can't set off the fireworks until it gets dark. And I remember that as a child was such a long wait, right? At school, it gets like around school time, it gets dark at 4:30 for crying out loud. But then obviously it's summer and daylight savings and everything else. And it felt like it took forever before it would get dark and we could finally light off our fireworks that have been sitting in the closet for about, 2 weeks. And so I was just wondering, like, what did fireworks look like in the great state of Alaska? Did you just let them off all day because it's never going to get dark?
More or less.
Yeah.
I think, we had neighbors who would always get, like every year it was like a bigger snake one. It's like, hey, we're not going to be able to see this, but like let's go for like sound and impact. And so like I guess seeing fireworks is part of the appeal of them. People down here seem to think that like you want them to happen at night and be able to see the lights and colors. That's foreign to me. We didn't really care up in Alaska. It was they started sending those off early in the morning and they keep going all day. Our family, we weren't that big into fireworks, but also, we had enough friends that shot them off around the neighborhood. It's kind of like the same with hunting. We weren't good hunters, but our neighbors would, so our fridge was always full.
I would imagine not too many regulations, local or statewide or otherwise, in terms of what fireworks were allowed.
You'd be surprised because they did have a relatively large fire up there, like in '97, that I think was fireworks related. And so there's only one city, Houston, Alaska. Shout out Guerrilla Fireworks, because with the Guerrilla Fireworks in you're going to light up the sky. Anyways, Houston was the one city like in the whole state where you were actually legally allowed to buy fireworks. I think it was one of those ones where like you could set them off anywhere, but you could only buy them in one place.
Gotcha. All right. Speaking of fireworks, watch this radio transition.
I'm ready.
There's been fireworks on the Oregon recruiting trail. It wasn't that great. But I'll be honest, Tyson, because I love college football and I love talking college football with you and on this show. I have a very hard time getting excited about the 2025 freshman class for Oregon football. I know some people get very excited about it, but I do think like there's there's reality and then there's perception, and perception can be almost as important in college football. Like your reputation is like, hey, Nick Saban's the best recruiter in the biz. You keep hearing that over and over again. Every recruit goes, yeah, Saban's recruiting me. I must be the best. And I get a sense that Dan Lanning is kind of getting on that path. Cristobal kind of embraced it as well, but I get the feeling that like whether or not these guys who are committed ultimately flip or ultimately show up to Eugene or ultimately transfer away, and the 17 different reasons they might not play a down of football for Oregon, it almost seems to kind of not matter because Lanning is gaining this reputation as one of the best recruiters in college football, and that carries some value and some weight, I think, right?
Yeah, like especially now too, because like you get like a whole, you get to this July point of the season and you get like a whole big news cycle out of it too. It's hey, here's Oregon dominating again. Did you see all the 5-stars that are on campus this week for this visit? It's so momentum based, and yeah, like I talked to the folks at the corridor, and we've made a rule that we're not going to do any profiles on any players committed until they've actually like signed like the darn contract in December and February. But like it's still a very large part of Oregon's kind of sphere. We talk so much about the transfer portal, and in this upcoming season, we're going to talk a lot about transfer portal players. The Ducks are very good at that aspect, but it's kind of funny how that's become the main talking point when this was a team that put together the number 3 class last year. And yeah, they might have been hovering around like number 29 last week, but then they go and sign like 4 or 5 guys and they're up into the top 5. It's very momentum based. It's very, I don't know. It almost seems coordinated in a ways because it seems like Oregon's so good at kind of crafting the news cycle towards them where they're able to get a heap of these guys at once and kind of control the narrative for a couple of weeks. Yeah, it's impressive. I feel like that there is and this is me, 34-year-old Tyson, trying to pretend what the kids think is cool, but it does feel like that there is a cool factor around kind of like that visit and committing to Oregon, whether or not you actually end up playing your football career there.
Well, and it's also Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor joining us on 620 Rip City Radio. There's a perception out there, and it might be real. I don't know because we don't know the numbers, right? We kind of know the numbers, and there's estimates about the numbers, but we don't really exactly know the numbers in terms of NIL and how much these players are getting paid. Is it part of the Oregon collective? Is Oregon a good springboard to other revenue streams? We don't know, but I've seen a couple of things on the internet where they have pretty close estimates as to what the collectives are. And, the narrative is that, oh, well, Nike is just buying all these players for Oregon. But you look at it like Texas A&M, Georgia, they all have a much bigger NIL budget. And Dan Lanning has really kind of figured some things out because it might be reported that it is, but it doesn't seem like the numbers back it up that Oregon is just buying these guys. It has to be a combo, and Lanning has got some sort of magic in that recruiting room.
Yeah, I saw. I think the same numbers that you saw this week, and it kind of does paint a different picture because like up until there was like a little bit of that transparency, like it did kind of seem like Oregon was like the Alabama of the old days where like anytime you lose a recruit to them, it's like, oh, either they're paying it or it's just, it's just like some sort of excuse with it. And yeah, I like Oregon's collective is in a really good place. It's one of the better organized ones in the country. And it's, according to some of those numbers we've seen, like it's paying out like a top 21 in the country too, but it's not like for the last 2 months, it's felt like that Oregon happens to be the only school in the country that has a big mega booster that wants to win football games, right? Like, no, like there's a lot of schools like that. Phil Knight's very, very, very affluent. There are a lot of other affluent football fans across the country too. So I think it's a combo of, yes, Oregon is very organized on the money front, but I think just overall what they're selling, the message that the football coaches and the kind of the cohesion they have with that. And then also, there's there's just making money through NIL, and then there's also like making money and building your brand too. And I think that's part of what Oregon's is really good at, and I think these players are recognizing that.
I mean, it seems like if you ask anybody else in college football, it's like Oregon is like Harry and Lloyd in Dumb and Dumber when they found the briefcase and they found out that the briefcase was just full of money. It's like, those are IOUs, pal. And they're just sitting there going, there you go. They go, hey, Dylan Gabriel, there you go. Dante Moore, you want to play backup? Don't worry. There you go. Wiping their nose with $100 bills. Like, it's like, I think you're right. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of money out there in college football. I don't know if you noticed, but the other thing about it, and it makes me feel very old, but that's okay, because that's just how life's going to work, Tyson, is I'm going to be 45 here in a couple of months. It's just the way the calendar works.
Ooh.
But I know it's a big one. But I've been seeing some of the stuff about these new uniforms that are coming out, which I'm very excited about. I'm so pumped we're back to talking about uniforms with Oregon football. It brings me back to 2005 vibes. But the whole point of the uniforms, they're calling it Generation O because it's like, yeah, all of these players, this is all they have known. All of these high school kids and even these transfer kids is all they have known is, other than a couple of dips here and there, is that Oregon is flashy, Oregon is innovative, and Oregon is really good at football. They know nothing of the build, which I guess it was kind of the ultimate payoff to the gamble they took like 25 years ago, is that now you have got 19-year-old kids whose entire life is like, oh, yeah, Oregon, that's the cool football program. Their entire life.
Yeah, sorry, it took me a while to comprehend that.
I know, I talked a lot in that question. There's a lot of words.
Well, no, because then I started thinking about it, and it's like, yeah, I guess like, you know, the big uniform kind of like summit started, or like, you know, changing happened like, what was that, like 98, 99-ish? So the 25 years, that's about a Bo Nix in today's modern college football. Yeah, it's like their entire lives. And you know, I feel like that's, I mean, obviously it's great branding for Oregon, but it's such a different kind of story than the ones that like we hear, because I think part of the coolness of Oregon's story is like how they went from kind of, you know, being a sleepy school to like this thing, and like the change that happened. And it's definitely different for modern day kids who don't realize that every school in the country didn't used to have like 15 uniform combinations or do all the things that Oregon did. Like Oregon definitely set the standard of things that kids these days probably just think is just, you know, normal across college football.
Well, it also, I thought about this a couple of weeks ago, because I think you and I have talked about, like, Tez Johnson is about to be the most popular player at Oregon. Maybe Dylan Gabriel because he's a quarterback. But Tez Johnson came in and it was like, oh, it's Bo Nix's adopted brother. And boy, what a crazy story. And coming in, it's like, well, he's about ready to break a bunch of records. And if anybody's had the chance to talk to him, he's got the best personality of anybody on this team.
Yep.
And in going and watching some of those interviews, it's weird to me to see that a kid who grew up in Alabama was like, oh, yeah, everybody that knew me knew that Oregon was my favorite team. It was just so weird to me, because I grew up in Oregon, other than the people who I grew up around, was nobody's favorite team outside of the state. And to think that, yeah, Tez Johnson's, he's about 21. His entire life, it probably started with Dennis Dixon, and then, you know, went to the Blur, and then went to Marcus, and then her, like, to think that there was a 21-year-old kid now who, when he was 9, all he wanted for Christmas was an Oregon hoodie is kind of mind-boggling, but that's what they have built up.
Well, and you know, give the folks at Oregon some credit. You know, I feel like I was among the numerous members of the media who over the years have like rolled their eyes every time they like break out like the national brand cliche, or kind of like a lot of the cliches that they use, but like ultimately that's true. And like, it's, you know, I remember back in 2019 when the Ducks were like putting together, I think it was at their time their strongest recruiting class, and the Athletic had me fly down to California and do a story about all the California kids recruiting. And I was at Mater Dei High School, and I had like 4 kids tell me like they all grew up watching the Anthony Thomas highlights, and it was like that's what made them think Oregon was cool. It was a localized kid from LA wearing those cool uniforms who was playing a certain play style at Oregon, and like that made a ton of sense to me because it's it's West Coast, it's regionalized, it's behind one player, but then to see like kind of like that branched out across the country to where they're pulling in really good players from Texas, from Florida, from Georgia, from they got players from New York. Like it's it's something that we might have rolled our eyes at, but it was such like a unique and concentrated type of branding that really did work and resonate among that generation O that's now playing for the Ducks.
Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. A lot of changes coming up in college football, Tyson, and I've said a couple of times it just doesn't quite feel real yet. Much like tomorrow, there's going to be a hot dog eating contest, and Joey Chestnut's not going to be in it. I mean, are we prepared for this? It's just, like I said, it doesn't feel real.
Do you remember the 1999 home run derby at Coors Field?
I certainly do.
Defending champion Ken Griffey Jr. wasn't going to do it. He just wasn't. He wasn't feeling the fans. It just wasn't. He didn't want to do it, and then he basically got bullied into joining the home run derby in the very last minute. And you know what Ken Griffey Jr. did, Justin?
I know exactly what he did.
Yeah, he won that darn thing.
He won that darn thing over Sammy Sosa, by the way, who was juiced out of his mind.
Exactly, and
in Colorado,
I think that was the year after beating Jim Thome in the finals too. I mean, like Griffey didn't mess around in these things. That's what I'm hoping what happens. I hope there's a change at the last minute and we get our rightful champion back in the game, because when I think of influential American athletes that people have the most respect for, think it's cool, think revolutionize the game, Griffey has the sweetest swing.
Mm-hmm.
Joey has the sweetest clench.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's just I think America needs this, and I think we need this.
Yeah, you think about like Patrick Mahomes' scrambling ability, Griffey's swing, maybe John Elway's arm, Roger Clemens' fastball, Joey Chestnut jaws. You think all the same thing, same category.
I did see that. Isn't he and Kobayashi doing like their own like side? Kobayashi, that's a name that I haven't pulled out of my own brain in a decade. Aren't they doing their own little like sideshow thing?
Oh yeah,
on
Kobayashi
Netflix?
coming out of retirement Labor Day weekend instead of 4th of July, Labor Day weekend. So while we are watching kickoff classics and all over and neutral site games and maybe even in a break from Oregon putting 70 up on Idaho, we get to watch a clash of the Titans in terms of hot dog eating contest. But here's my – can I get you on board with this? Here's what I would love to see. Now that Joey Jaws Chestnut's out of the game, can we get a return to the class? Like just like when we got the steroid era, kind of, out of baseball.
No dunking.
And it was like, hey, let's get back to what baseball used to be. I'm not saying that I want these guys to have choking hazard, but you know what? Can I see a hot dog eating contest where we eat hot dogs and buns at the same time? That's what I want to see.
And I think that they should have to put their own. There should be a minimum of one ketchup and mustard packet that they have to put on themselves. No bottles. It has to be like restaurant style. You have to open up the package, line it. I want an aesthetically pleasing hot dog race. It's kind of like the Monza of Formula One championships. It's not that great of a race, but it's gorgeous, and that's what I want this hot dog championship to be.
So then whoever like Ferrari at Monza, right? And it's like whoever clearly Joey Chestnut was the hot dog eating goat, but now like maybe. Could mustard throw a big enough variable in there where you would have these mustard packets? Or maybe like at the ballpark, you know how they have the mustard pump? You know what I mean? Everybody gets like a mustard pump that you got to put on and then go into eating it. I like that.
I do feel like that the Nathan's Hot Dog organization might be making a slight error here. Like this kind of feels like the Pac-12 being like, hey, like Oregon and USC and Washington, like you guys leave, like we're doing fine. We got a whole bunch of good Cals.
Yeah.
In Arizona State.
We got Olympic sports, and we're gonna play Friday night games. So what are you gonna do about it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you're right.
You guys are moving to your own thing? Oh. Oh, okay. Well, good luck over there.
You know what? Dynamite analogy. Nothing better. Can't make this segment any better. We leave on a high note, like Costanza intended us to. Tyson Alger, you can follow him on Twitter at Tyson Alger. You can also be subscribed to the I-5 corridor. I hear there's a deal. There's a deal going on the I-5 corridor right now. 20% off. Get your I-5 corridor subscription right now at 20% off. Tyson, have a great 4th of July. Have a great holiday weekend. We'll talk to you next week.
Hey, absolutely, buddy. Thank you.
There you go. Tyson Alger, boys and girls. We have got the RCM mailbag next. 620 Rip City Radio. All right, let's wrap up the big show and get you ready to hit the. Hopefully, you have an extra holiday weekend. If you are working the next couple of days, tip of the cap and a salute to you. We appreciate it. But for all of you that are fortunate, like I am, to have the next couple of days off, it is going to be, well, it's going to be hot and warm. It's going to be a fantastic time here in the middle of summer. So one more segment before we wrap up the big show for the holiday weekend. Of course, it is the RCM mailbag.
Well, first up comes from the YouTube chat, and the question is, hey, what's up with the Super Bowl 24 championship 49ers over the Broncos sweatshirt in the background that looks new? Is that just there to piss Chad off?
Yeah. That's a very
answer.
Very
Yes.
simple answer as a yes. Here's the thing I can talk about in this studio. I have one kind of knick-knack in the studio that is mine, and it's about this show. And it was a joke about how CJ McCollum was my Twitter best friend because he quote tweeted me one time, and then I had a friend who took the quote tweet that CJ McCollum had and put it on a T-shirt, and I hung that T-shirt up. Everything else in here is the Chad doing, Michael Shacker, Chris Burkhardt, passive-aggressive battle with one another. That's what is here in the studio. Because clearly, if you could see any of this, and I don't know how much people can see on the YouTube, and I will do my best to describe theater of the mind. I'm a radio professional. There's a lot of Blazer stuff. There's some Oregon State stuff that I think Michael Shacker is responsible for. There is old radio stuff that really needs to be thrown out, and just a bunch of stuff that I have nothing to do with. And one of those things is Michael Shacker's retro. I mean, it's a cool retro sweatshirt, but a retro 49ers 89 championship sweatshirt that was put there solely to tick off Chad Doing. And I don't know if it worked or not because it's still up. You know what I mean? It's still hung up.
Well, the Joe Montana Sega cartridge didn't work because that didn't come in. So
yeah, there's a Joe Montana. Is this Sega Genesis? Yeah, Sega Genesis. Joe Montana Sports Talk Football. Now, I don't know what makes it Sports Talk Football. That'd be sweet if they actually had a Sports Talk element in the video game where, like, you don't play very well and then, like, you have to hear, like, a bunch of guys trash you for, like, the next 20 minutes. That'd be pretty sweet. But, yeah, for those of you that are watching on YouTube and see, like, what is it, like, I have no say in any of this.
There's a remix poster for your friend because this is a remix, Portland remix friendly show.
Yes, we are. We have Devon Pouncey, who was on the show yesterday, who was the analyst for the Rip City remix. We have one of those, and a lot of Trailblazers. We are Rip City Radio, which is cool, but like then there's other stuff up here that just, quite frankly, is clutter. It is. It's just clutter because we have Michael Shacker and Chad Doing and Chris Burkhardt, who I assume you are all pack rats and don't throw anything away. You talked about how you were moving and you packed up. You never threw anything away. So we just have a bunch of pack rats at work here. Between your quote-unquote collectibles and stuff, Chad's coffee stand that he has to the left, Burkhardt's knickknacks. I don't have any room for my stuff, which is why I stay out of it. Also, off camera, no one will see it, but it is a whiteboard that is frozen in time that still makes me laugh every once in a while. Because there was a time when the two shows that were hosted by different people would write who the guests were going to be on the whiteboard, and that way you would know who to promote and everything else. And, well, that stopped and nobody erased it. So that's how you get...
Oh, I just assumed they use Sharpie and they can't erase it.
It might not be able to at this particular point, but that's how you get... Ryan Nall is going to be a guest on Rip City Drive. Yeah, that's circa 2018, I think. Somewhere around there.
Yeah, I took a picture that day. It sometimes comes up in my memories.
So yeah, so that's the other thing in the studio that makes very little sense. A lot of clutter, like I said. Chad's got a coffee machine and his the amount of mugs. I have one coffee mug in the studio, and by the way, I'm the only one that works in the mornings. So I have one coffee mug that sits right next to me. Right now, currently, I can see four coffee mugs that are not mine. Plus multiple other cups and vessels for water and coffee. So that's what's in the studio. In case anybody's wondering. And now, why is the 49er thing up there? Oh, yeah, that's just to take a shot at Chet. Now, how he hasn't put that
Because the
away.
Broncos lost 55-10. No one's ever going to forget that.
That is true. Broncos did lose 55-10. All right, do you have another one?
Yeah, real quick, because we're talking about Chad. You guys both watched Beverly Hills 90210 every episode. Are you guys also going to watch Melrose Place and Models Inc.?
I think Models Inc. with that last nine episodes, I think.
I was hoping they had a couple seasons.
I don't think Models Inc. lasted more than a season. I do remember it, though. I am hoping sooner rather than later, Chad and I are going to be doing our complete breakdown of 90210 because he recently rewatched it. Now, I've watched it live because it was right in my wheelhouse. It's been a minute since I have rewatched it, but I very much look forward to the complete 90210 breakdown, hopefully coming up on Rip City Drive sometime this summer before football gets underway. I'm looking right now. I don't think the Models Inc. lasted more than a season, unfortunately. And unfortunately, that's going to do it for the big show. Thanks again to Tyson Alger from